What makes life enjoyable? The other day, I was scrolling through Instagram, and it was one of those like, what would you tell your younger self? What advice would you give to your younger self? And there was this quote that said, forget about everything else, focus on making memories. Because this is something you can hold on to when you're older and you no longer have the ability to go out there and do the things as you wanted to do when you were younger. And I remember it hit me really deeply because I sat there and I looked at that quote and I read it 300 times. Because I sat there and thought, I'm not making memories. I'm not doing anything fun or important or interesting. I'm kind of just living life. I'm kind of just going through the void and not actually experiencing it. And I thought about all the things I've done, what makes life enjoyable. Personally, I've been in high-speed cars, going 100 miles per hour and been sad. Personally, I've done this and I've done that and been sad. And I'm like, what makes me happy? What makes other people happy? And I looked at society and I looked at poverty and I looked at affluent people and I looked at the social system and how some people have it better than others and how some people that don't have it work so hard that they become a person that do have it. Then I look at the people that never will have it but they're still happy, and I look at the people that have everything and die and kill themselves and are sad and depressed. And then I look at the mental system and I look at depression and I look at people that don't have depression, and I think, what makes life enjoyable? And for me, I could say it's my family, I could say it's the people around me, communication, having fun, quality time, talking, discussion. That's what makes me happy. Helping people, being there, being some type of resource. And then I realized that's how I make people happy. But how do I make myself happy? And I had no answers. I could say I work out, I could say I do X, Y, and Z, but what makes me truly happy? Because with the correlation in mental health, with the feeling of not being worthy or feeling like a failure or imposter syndrome or not being good enough, and with time ticking, always ticking, forever going on, and you get older every year. And I was talking to this older person, maybe in their 60s. And I remember we were sitting there having a conversation, and he looked at me and said, I'm just not happy anymore. He said, I'm retired. I haven't worked in 2 years. And all I do is sit around. All I do is waste away. I don't do anything. And I sat there and I started offering him things to do. I said, do you write? Do you draw? Do you work out? Do you play a sport? Do you volunteer? Do you do whatever? And he said, none of that brings joy to me. I'm 65 years old. And all I do is just sit at home on my money with my wife. And my wife doesn't do anything with me either. And we just sit here. Our kids, they have their own life. My grandkids have their own life, and they come by every once in a while, but nothing makes me happy anymore. And I remember sitting there thinking, this 65-year-old person is only 65. 65 is not old, at all. And, according to, society, maybe he has a good 30 to 40 years left on him. And that's at 65, he's sad. At 65, he feels like he has nothing. Why is that? Because all he knew was work. All he knew was getting a paycheck, taking care of his family, being there for his family. But now his family's gone. Now his family got his own life. Now his family doesn't need him. And so he's sitting there trying to relearn, relove, relive. And I told him, I said, you can't give up. I said, just because you retired and your kids have kids and your kids don't come around, I said, that doesn't mean you stop living. That doesn't mean that you stop going out there and finding new things and having experiences and learning life. And he said, I feel like for me, I've done everything I was supposed to do. I took care of myself. I took care of my wife. I took care of my children. They're good. I'm good. All I feel like I need to do is just sit here. And I think about all the people out there that just sit there, regardless if they want to or not, sitting there feeling like, what good can I find out of life? Imagine you sitting there in debt. You're sitting there in depression. You're sitting there in your thoughts, in your pain, in your trauma. Sitting there wondering, how do I get to the next stage? How do I continue? How do I be the best, the greatest? And you don't make those memories that everyone deeply needs. So many of us see life as just a system. You work, you get paid, you pay your bills, you feed yourself, you feed your family, and you do it again the next day. For 70 years, you do that. But no one stops and thinks, what makes me happy? What can I do to be happy? What can I do to make my life meaningful? I was watching this TV show, and it was going into the worst parts of America. I'm talking about poverty. And you saw how people survived, how people were on edge because at any moment gunshots can ring off, how people are on edge because they didn't have food or they didn't have water or they didn't have lights or anything to keep them up, how people were robbing each other for survival. And I think about how society, more than 50% of us will get old and look back and think, what did I do with my life? Was I happy? And why couldn't I live the way I wanted to? What made me be so institutionalized? So I ask you, if you're a person listening to this, what makes your life enjoyable? What makes you happy? Not how do you make other people happy? Not what are you doing to facilitate others, but what makes you happy? What memories do you want to create? What places do you want to go? How do you want to feel at 65? How do you want to feel at 70, 80, 90? Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? Who do you want to talk to? How do you want to look back on life? What is it that you, and only you as a person, need for yourself to be happy in this one life we get? And I think I've been questioning that for me personally. What is it that I want to do so that I can be happy, have happiness, never experience that loneliness, that giving up, that feeling of complacency, that feeling of I did everything and I'm no longer worth anything to this world or to my family or to this country or to the government. So many of us get to a certain age and just exist. They're just walking around like zombies. But you're more than that. You're more than a bill. You're more than a paycheck. You're more than a job, some food. You as a human being deserve to know that you are worth happiness. You are worth fun, experience, a memory. I want for everybody to look back on their lives and just think, I had a pretty good time. Yeah, I had obstacles. Yeah, I went through it. But I had a pretty good time. And I'm satisfied on where I ended it off on. I know not everybody's dealt the same hand, or not everyone's dealt the best hand. But you do have a hand, and you do have a deck of cards, and they could be burnt, they could be a new pack, they could be sticky or bad, but I think what we need to do in life is just play them and see where we land and see how far we can get. I want you to figure out what makes your life enjoyable. Until next time, peace.